Oh. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, at 6:32. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, starting with Vinnie.
Vinnie Canadella.
Steve Kozik.
Nicole Levine McGrath. Debbie Sherman. Stephanie Miller.
Mike Kusa.
Joe Madison.
Dick Tomporowski.
Shelley Lisa Pascalat.
Michelle. And amendments to the agenda. I have an amendment to the agenda. Motion to amend the agenda and add a motion and possible discussion regarding the state of Connecticut mask mandate to item number 2.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. So we will add that to number 2. So just get this. So then we will move to that motion, and it is. Can I introduce them first? Can I introduce them? Okay. So the motion to discuss and possible discussion regarding state of Connecticut mask mandate. So you have a motion. Motion to revise and approve the face mask and covering policy in series 4000 to be optional for students and staff effective March 1st, 2022.
Second.
Discussion? So no discussion, everybody gets that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, so now we are on report of the chair. Board recognizes First Selectman George Temple. Thank you for coming. Did you want to speak, George?
Yeah. Can I be heard? Okay. We've had a lot of controversy concerning masks, and I know that because I hear from on both sides, by the way. Some people feel that their kids should have masks on, all kids should have it, and others don't. My feeling is I approve of the action of the Board of Ed in making this optional. That's what we're going to do in town buildings. We're going to make it optional. I'm not so sure. You know, one thing I found out over the last 2 years dealing with this COVID is things change daily. I remember when the vaccine was coming out, I said, you get the first shot, you have a 56% chance in 2 weeks of being fine with COVID, and your second shot was 94%. And the next thing you know, I'm getting a booster shot. I don't know what that's about. So things change, and this has changed. I know some of you won't be happy with what the Board of Ed does, and that's the nature of the beast. That's why I'm glad I'm over there, not here. The rules aren't made because people want to be draconian. Not even in the least. I think the rules are made for people of goodwill who really, and everybody, I know everybody on this board, and I can tell you they're all coming from the same place. They're, as I am, they're interested in the health, safety, and welfare of every kid in school. And, some kids can't wear masks. They get rashes and everything else. And, personally, I can't even breathe when I have one of them on, and I give credit to those of you that can. The thing that was on Fox the other day, I happen to be watching that. I don't really watch those news networks, but I saw that and I said, oh my God, it's time to get back to the reservation. When the kids were playing the instruments through the mask. And I give that music teacher a lot of credit. Because he couldn't teach me how to play one of those things without a mask, no less with one on. And I give our kids, those kids that were in that picture, a lot of credit. Because they obviously love music, and they were going to do whatever they had to do to see through the concert. And personally, I really appreciate that. Appreciate the effort that was made, but it just kind of pointed out to a lot of people that the futility of this of ordering these masks. I think everybody is the same. It's been 2 years, and we're tired of it. I mean, personally, I am. And it might be time. We don't seem to be in dire straits right now. I keep in touch with Dr. Brown, the epidemiologist, and he's the advisor to the Board of Ed as well as the town. And he's a resident of the town. And there doesn't seem to be that really bad time that we had 2 years ago, where people in this town were dying. We had 11 deaths from COVID, directly related, not anything else, but it was COVID. And so we've evolved. The disease has evolved, and I think that now is the time to see what we can do to relax a little bit and enjoy life a little bit. I mean, I'm amazed at the effort that the Board of Ed made, particularly graduation. I'll never forget that. I thought that was terrific. And everybody, that we had a parade of cars. Everybody, of course, you're not going to keep a bunch of high school kids from going over and hugging each other on graduation. But I thought that was a terrific compromise, and we really did work hard at it. So, my position is that I support this board. I support what they do. I think you have people that if you give permission for your child to not wear a mask, it should be your permission, your parents. Part of what we did. Part of what we did was, take that option, that away from our parents, and that's not right. But you should be also aware of the fact that there may be some inherent risk, if there are in fact inherent risk, and you should be fully aware of that. And I would urge that the board consider that. Stephanie, we talked this afternoon regarding that. So, as far as I'm concerned, I really look forward to seeing people relaxed a little bit more, seeing kids relaxed a little bit more, and seeing kids a little bit more participatory in not only athletics, but plays and stuff like that we've had to cancel. And that's really rotten to do, kids. So I say, let's go from here, go over.
Never get clapped for. You get clapped for. You come once. You get
Well, I mean, I'm better.
That's true. Okay, now is the report of the chair. And I thought that this would be a good moment to just kind of explain for those of you who may not know what the process of budget season is, because it is budget season. The BOE is the largest cost center for the town of Oxford, over $30 million. There are a lot of meetings and a lot of time spent creating the budget, and the process is as follows. First, the superintendent, assistant superintendent meet with all cost centers and build a budget beginning in the fall. Next, the superintendent presents his budget to the BOE, which occurred on January 22nd. So from January 22nd to today, the Finance Subcommittee has been meeting nights and Saturdays to go through the budget. The budget proposal that you see is a work in progress. The board went into detail on scheduling, amount of teaching time, differentials, which is money for teaching extra classes, stipends, contracts, and more. We've taken a close look at the non-teaching items and contracts in the budget and have used actuals instead of guesstimates where possible. During the budget process, one of the focuses is to identify inefficiencies in the system and make a budgetary correction. Dr. Miller and Mr. Hibbert have been fantastic in providing transparency and information. It's the intention of this board to provide a budget that is fiscally responsible to the parents and children who are educated in our town, as well as other constituents who pay their taxes so our children can be educated. We all know that rising prices are affecting family budgets. Our aim is to minimize the tax increase to already strained budgets while maintaining a high-quality education. Tonight, Board of Finance Subcommittee will give the rest of the board the budget proposal that we've been working on. The final budget will go to the full board vote and discussion at the February 22nd meeting. The budget is then presented, we're not over then. The budget is then presented to the Town Board of Finance, according to Town Charter on March 3rd. There, the budget is always cut. Then we go back to the drawing board to figure out how to manage the district within that budget number. At the beginning of this process in January, we invited the Town Board of Finance members to attend our budget workshop, where each cost center administrator presented to the board and answered questions regarding their budget. The comment from the town chair of the Board of Finance, Jack Kiley, so now you have his name, was that he was very impressed with the transparency and deep consideration shown in preparing this budget. We are hoping this translates to a minimal cut to our proposed budget. Please keep watch and attend the Town Board of Finance meetings to see how the budget is processed from here on. So just a little information on the process of our budget. Any comments or questions from board members on that? No? All right, thank you. Moving on. Do we have any minutes?
We have no minutes to approve tonight.
Audience of citizens is now. There's a sign-up sheet if you, are there any names on it?
I don't know yet.
There is at least one.
I can pull up with anyone.
Yeah.
No, wait for it.
There, yeah. Board welcomes comments. We, there's a large crowd here, so, I'd like if there are people, if there can be consolidated consensus on what you want to say, and a few people can say it, or when somebody speaks and they say the same thing that you want, you can come up and say, I agree with that. But, I don't want to limit your time, but I just like you to just be in consideration that there's a lot of people and I have no idea how many of you really want to individually speak. So with that, I can ask Christy. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. So thank you.
Good, how are you?
I think I can say that probably everybody in this room was so excited to hear about the mask. Not to be Debbie Downer, but of course I have to ask the question. Will masks be optional to only the vaccinated children? You guys plan on throwing that curveball at us?
We're really not supposed to have back and forth, but that's not our intention.
Okay, well, that's definitely something that just got clicked in my mind again. I don't want to Debbie Downer, just validated, but I feel like I just wanted to throw that out there, that I know that I'm sure that's going through a few minds. I know that it's always been on masks if you're vaccinated. The only other thing I want to talk about is just briefly the whole budget thing. I know there's a lot of rumors going around. People are talking about teachers getting cut and certain money being allocated. I'm not going to pretend like I can sit up there and do numbers and totally, it's not my thing. I did take a little time and look at the proposed budget. There were things that brought to question in my mind. I know that it was discussion of possibly dropping a 5th grade teacher and going off proposed numbers of kids that were proposed coming into the district next year. And again, I'm sure you guys are keeping into account the housing, younger families moving in, older families moving out. a lot more people now that we are hopefully moving forward that have homeschooled their children, planning on sending their children to school next year. So I'm sure all of these factors will make the numbers a little bit. Another thing that was just brought to my attention, again, not one thing I was talking about. Curriculum. So to cut it there, I'm curious to know, $110,000 is a lot of subs. So I just don't know where that is coming from. Again, to circle back to the fifth grade, cutting fifth grade is because I do see that we have 140, 130 kids now currently in our fifth grade. Next year in fourth grade, it's like 140. 130 kids we currently have, and you have 113 moving up from fourth grade into fifth grade. Which, give or take is about 20 kids. However, our fifth grade classrooms are the largest student teacher ratio of all of the classes. Kids going from fifth to sixth grade, I could say for myself and for my son, which I hope he doesn't get back to them saying this, but it was a big transition, fifth to sixth grade. So I just don't know if that fifth grade cluster is where we should go it from. I think all of our fifth grade teachers are an incredible asset. They're all amazing at what they do. I don't know if any teachers is where we should pull it from. I'm hoping that maybe we could find another place. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't know all that much. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I can do your job and I know where to pull it from. But I hope that we can find a place to pull it from that will put our kids at risk. Maybe the adults can take on a little more so that our kids don't have to. Because I just feel like pulling the teachers who these kids need support coming off a 2 years pandemic. They're behind, they need that support, they need their teachers. And I personally just don't feel that's the place to pull it from. And going through a lot of this, I see that that's trimming the fat, and it seems a lot to be there. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Audrey.
Based on the current alcohol.
Okay. Nancy Susansky.
I feel like I'm the Lorax and I'm speaking for the trees, but I'm speaking for my team. I'm speaking to you as an Oxford taxpayer who's lived in this town for 35 years and whose 4 children attended schools here K through 8. I've also been a 5th grade teacher here for almost 19 years and only one other teacher at OCS/GOES, I can't keep that right, has been there longer than I have. I've seen enormous changes in curriculum, a change in the actual location of my school, and unprecedented changes due to COVID. What is unchanging in this entire time has been the desire and effort toward reducing class sizes in order to better meet the needs of an increasingly diverse student population and increasingly complicated academic expectations. What better time than now? What an opportunity we have to realize the ideal class size in grade 5. What better time to realize this ideal class size than now, when we are every day dealing with the emotional, educational, and physical effects of this pandemic. If we keep our grade 5 staff to 6 teachers, we will be able to keep class size the same as in the current grade 4, 19 to 20 students, and we will realize this goal. We will not only be able to keep our very successful model of 3-person teams, which is essential in preparing kids for the huge jump to middle school, but we will also have a better chance to nurture and support students in the most meaningful manner. It makes no sense to me to obliterate an instructional model that has been effective, especially as we continue to introduce new curriculum philosophies and materials that require ever more sophisticated skills from the students. There is precedent for class sizes of 19, and I cite this data from the Connecticut Department of Education. In our DRG Group C, Cornwall has an average class size in elementary school of 15. Additionally, according to nces.ed.gov data, the average class size in Connecticut for grade 5 is 19.7 students, with departmentalized instruction at 17.5. According to insider.com data, even Alabama had elementary class sizes of 19.2. So 19 to 20 in grade 5 falls right in with that data. I know data was presented a few weeks ago that seemed to indicate that Oxford's enrollment is declining. However, this is the same algorithm that predicted a decrease in kindergarten and was so off the mark that another kindergarten had to be added. Additionally, my school got 2 new students just yesterday. I know some of you on this board, as I've had the privilege of teaching your children. Our current board chair was a colleague in grade 5 for many years. I know that you are all charged with providing the best education possible for the children of our town, and I know that you take that seriously. As a parent, grandparent, taxpayer, and a teacher, I respectfully ask that the board not tamper with the foundation of our educational pyramid, the teachers who provide direct instruction to students. To do so invites instability not only in the foundation, but in all that it is upholding.
Just like to add on to that, I agree with everything you said. I would also just like to say support of that. There is data now for the IRED program that we moved to that. I encourage everyone on the board to please look at the 5th grade data before making this decision and see the team that we created finally. Taking through all the pieces together, you can see already our success that we're showing.
Quincy?
One comment about masks, and that I have some other surprise curriculum things that I wanted to invite. I think the board knows what they have to do. I don't think we can ever assimilate deeply enough that our rights do not come from government. One of the things that continues to frustrate me in this entire environment is people that are saying, please, and why don't you give this back to us? And how long do we have to wait? Ours is a government based on the consent of the governed, and it is time to get past the mask. This is personal choice, and the government has no right to tell anybody what to cover their face with, whether they can breathe, whether to be vaccinated. So I think the board knows that. On curriculum, I don't know how some of this stuff finds me, but it does. What I'll talk about first here is something that I found in the Connecticut portal, right? This is an initiative by the governor that was recently rolled out, and it's Connecticut Hate Crimes Advisory Council. Unfortunately, I have to make a footnote that obviously I don't endorse hate crimes of any kind. This is the reason I bring this to the board is because I want them to be aware that there may be curriculum, I'll call them interventions coming. There's a subcommittee that specifically is going to review whether or not new educational curricula is needed in the middle schools and the high schools in the state of Connecticut. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because I think I've been in front of this board enough for everybody to know that I have very strong concern about censorship. And while I don't want to see anybody wounded, I don't want to see anybody hurt, we have a right to freely express ourselves. So let's just be careful on where we go with that and make sure that we don't suppress free speech and opinions. I think a recent case in point is Whoopi Goldberg. Whether anyone agrees with her remarks or not, she had the right to say them, and no one was hurt by her words. There was no injury.
Do you want us to fix that so you can put it on the stand and, well, I'm just suggesting.
Well, you know, it's a short, it's vertically challenged for us.
Thanks, Heath.
I saw this and I thought, you know, this is perfect.
There you go.
Thank you. Now I can actually see my notes. The other thing I'd like to share with the board, and I'd be happy to give you links to all this if you just tell me who specifically, but something I came across which is called Checkology. And it's an initiative by the media organization, industry, I'll call it, to help children navigate today's challenging informational landscape, to learn how to identify credible information, seek out reliable sources, and apply critical thinking skills to separate fact-based content from falsehoods. So on its face, it sounds really, really good, right? We want our students to be critical thinkers. It's not a journalism course, and they're very short tutorials out there, videos that I only had an opportunity to scratch the surface. But we need to read between the lines and determine what the actual agenda is, whether it's to promote a certain line of thinking or really to bring forth our modern day critical thinking investigative journalists. I just want to let you know that's out there because there's actually, they've separated by state and Connecticut is in there as a way for them to have outlined this to adopt to our curriculum preference. This last one, this one pretty much made my head explode. And this comes right off the state of Connecticut. It is the 2021 Healthy and Balanced Living Curriculum Framework put out by the Department of Education. That from what I can see is still pending approval. It hasn't been approved yet, but it's our health curriculum. And any of you that are working on curriculum, maybe you've already gotten an introduction to this. But there are things out there that just blew my mind that we're doing this, that the state is proposing doing things in the classroom. So we have they go into sexual health education, 12 hours per grade, per sequence, starting PK through 2 and going up to high school. In the health and safety area, they want a minimum of 40 hours in each academic year, increasing to 85 high school. That covers alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and other communicable diseases, education on other communicable diseases, right? Again, this is starts PK through 2, okay? And then they break it down by sequence with the other grades. Healthy relationships, all right? You're introducing in PK through 2 different types of relationships. What defines a family? What makes a healthy family? So again, I come to you in the context of what are we trying to disseminate to our kids? There are certain things I'm a strong believer, believe taught in the home, and I've said before this board that what I feel we should be doing in the classroom is commanding that everybody respect one another, irrespective of background. I don't care what color, size, shape, attitude, religion you are. It's all about respect. We should not be determining, we should not be introducing something that may not be consistent with values that are being taught at home. Okay. 3 to 5, we're introducing, this is under healthy relationships. Healthy ways to express affection, love, and friendship. And this is a time when our kids are already afraid to be near one another because of this whole COVID environment we're in. Gender role stereotypes. Then we go into grade 6 to 8, differentiate among gender expression, identity, and orientation. How, and this is again 6 to 8, how consent is foundational. And I'm editing some of my wording here because I'm conscious of the audience tonight. 9 through 12, we're talking about viewing adult material and evaluating the consequences of sending adult material over media. This is in our school. And then we get into sexual health. And again, PK through 2, we're going through the identification of all the body parts. In 3 through 5, we're talking about development. 3 through 5. I don't know where you all were grade 3 through 5, but I was playing Susie Homemaker. I was at home with my Easy Bake Oven. This was the furthest thing from my mind. Okay? And I can tell you, I'll just share a story. When my daughter was in first grade, she came off the bus where we all learn all kinds of things, right? And told me that she had become educated on certain facts of life. And I had a conversation with her and she asked me if that was factually correct. And when I told her it was, she was disgusted. Okay. And that was kindergarten, first grade. All right. Then in grades 9 through 12, we're talking about federal guidelines about healthcare services. Perception to pregnancy termination. I don't know if you folks are aware that in the state of Connecticut, we have very lenient laws. Our minor daughters, granddaughters, nieces, and nephews can go through a medical procedure without having to get adult consent. And we're talking about this in the classroom, okay? Then we go on and we're talking about, and there's a lot more content here, I just highlighted the ones that stood out. The state and federal laws related to the safe haven law, parenting, sterilization. Why are we talking about sterilization to high school students? Why is that even part of the health curriculum? Then the next level of content is around assault and abuse. Defining consent, and that's grades 3 to 5. Physical content, P through K, inappropriate touch. That concludes my presentation. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware, and actually I'm glad to see this turnout tonight because I think a lot of us don't realize exactly to what degree the government is trying to just destroy our youth. And I may be a dinosaur, but if we're dedicating, okay, a minimum of 40 hours through, starting with 40 in PK through 2, up to 80 in 11 through 12, and then your sex education, 12 hours per sequence. For heaven's sakes, what are we losing out in academics? What are we losing in academics? So I've come to know this board. I have confidence in this board. Please, please, please reject this nonsense. Parents will stand behind you. Reject this nonsense.
I don't have anyone else on my list. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? A little shorter than Linda, if possible.
I would like to address both parents and the board. Thank you for this. But I gotta go to the parents. You guys hold all the power.
Hold on. Can I just have your name and address?
Alicia, come speak to Oxford.
Thank you.
Thank you. You hold all the power. They are your elected officials. You guys get to call the shots. Please remember that. Your kids can't get back in 2 years that it is stolen from them. We were all afraid when this pandemic happened. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And I understand the fear. But then after a while, did we all not know something was wrong? Yeah. But there's a big problem. And you guys need to change this. You guys are in control. Remember that. You hold all the power. protect your children. Nobody else will, but you. Thank you, Linda, and thank you all three of us. You were wonderful.
Anyone else?
I see
Sure. Just your name, please, and
Heather Rosum,
address.
6 down in Plano.
Thank you.
So I wear a couple hats here in Oxford. I'm a parent of a child at Quaker, and I'm also a fifth grade teacher. And as you said, this pandemic hit our kids. See my son, 6 years old, in a class with 19 other 6-year-olds that were ripped out of their preschool. Then they were sent to kindergarten. They were in and out. They were in quarantine. They were home. Some kids were in school with them. Some kids weren't. They have no idea what's going on. And now they're thrown back in first grade and they're going with their curriculum. And there's one teacher with 18, 19 kids. There's 21 kindergartners in some of these classes, 5-year-olds. And we're talking the budget about getting rid of teachers. It doesn't make sense to me when there's such a need for these kids who are falling behind because of what happened in the past 2 years. There are kids, many kids, below their reading level, below their grade level in math. My son is one of them. He's a kid on the cusp, and I worry that, if we're taking teachers at the 5th grade level, because, okay, well, they're a little bit more mature, they can handle it. As a teacher, yeah, I know I can handle more kids in my classroom. But as a parent, if I knew my child was going into a class with less support, more kids, that's gonna hurt my child. That's scary for me. If we could do it in 5th grade, well, you know what? We can do it in 4th grade. We can do it in 3rd grade. And then all of a sudden, my kindergartner, I have 2 girls behind him that are coming up, now have 25 kids in their class. We know that smaller class sizes benefit our children. We've already heard them these past 2 years. We now need to help them overcome this. Kids are resilient, but they need us. And they need teachers that are going to be there to support their emotional needs, their social needs, their academic needs, all around. So I think that cutting teachers is not the place to do it. I know that budget cuts have to happen, but it's not from the teachers, not from the support staff. It has to be somewhere else. We have to find it somewhere else. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jen Kozak. And I wasn't going to say anything, but I just wanted to thank all of you for voting to move it or to give us an option. I just want to let everyone know, if you don't know, that there is a vote on Thursday in our legislature, and that is going to be what's going to determine what actually happens. Lamont did come out last night, giving us all kind of the sense of hope. But as I don't know if anybody was watching the hearing today, which wasn't actually a hearing, there's supposed to be a hearing in the building because of COVID, and they're pretty sneaky up there. So I just wanted to let everyone know, like, giving the board, it's a step in the right direction, giving the board the power. But the truth of it is, it should be in the parents' power, not on the board, because what they want to do is they want to have the Board of Education and the DPH. This is a law that they're trying to pass right now that would give the DPH and the Board of Education Connecticut jurisdiction to pull the mask, give us back the mask, tell us to put it back on, tell us to take it back off, depending on a cold virus, a flu virus, and anything else. And I also want everyone to know that the Democratic Party is split up there right now. I know a lot of intel, only because I've been fighting this basically medical freedom for the last 7 years up the Capitol, speaking on behalf of children that have been injured by vaccination. And what they're very split, so they're doing dirty stuff. So basically what they're doing is they're kind of blackmailing. So half the Democrats don't want the masks, half of them do. So the Democrats that don't want the masks anymore want vaccine mandates.
And the Democrats that want the masks on, don't want the mandates, as kind of like, they basically, they're doing that on purpose, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're bullying the ones that don't want the mask by saying, well, then we're gonna put the mandates in. So the mandates are coming next. It's gonna be something that's gonna be coming. If they have anything to say about it, you know, it's happening in California, New York, there's bills all over the place. They kicked, I don't know, 23,000 kids out of California schools just a few years ago, based on 2019, because the measles outbreak, that was so terrible. So just to be aware and just be paying attention, and I know we want to go after the board, and we're all angry at the board, but we really have to go to Hartford. We have to vote this election. We have to get everyone to vote in this election coming up, and that's the only way things will change, because they still want control. They're being very sneaky about it, and they're going about it in all different ways, and even Porter, I think her name's Robin Porter, who is a minority Democratic representative up there. She came on camera when we took our religious exemption away, which is a very sneaky move, because they did that right before in April. They know what they were doing. It's been planned for about 5 years now. It's coming. And so she stood up and she said she was literally threatened by Lamont that if she did not vote this religious exemption out the door, that they were basically, you know, there'd be repercussions. So there's a lot of bullying going on up there, and I just want everyone to be aware, and that is where we need to be putting our energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Molly Smith. I'm a parent.
Can you come up here, please, so we can hear you?
At 24 Wood Hill. So I'm coming to you guys tonight as the reduction of paraprofessionals and your teachers. As a mother of a child, 2 children who have paraprofessionals in the school for special needs, I'm wondering, how can you cut these people who are the fiber for schools? They are picking up their teachers when they can't pick anymore. For teachers, they have to help. I'm a teacher myself. And the idea that you would cut teachers' jobs and give them to the hardest teaching career of their lives, it makes me emotional. The fact that you would cut paraprofessionals, the least paid people in your schools, who are doing lunch lady duty, they're doing bus duty, they're doing everything. Consider the small people who need to do big jobs too. This is their livelihood. They don't sit here and they don't have these careers yet. This is how people start. Don't cut those jobs. Think of the special education children who you're taking away from. Those are the children who since pre-K 3, my son has been, he's been masked. He's missed out. It is the parents who make the packets, it's the parents who help the teachers. Those are the people who are helping. Consider your parents, consider your special education children who've been masked and muted, who can't read the facial expression in the same way, who struggle with sensory processing regulation, who can't wear a mask. These children have suffered. Your parents are there guiding them through the hallway so that they don't lose their crap and hide under this case desk like my son does. You know, your parents are your people. Your teachers are your people. Don't forget that. They've been forgotten for 2 years when they've done this crap. You know.
Anybody else? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your input. Next on the agenda, informational items, is that correct? Yes, I was checking the agenda here. So the budget session. I'm looking here. I'm sorry, Robert.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
So good evening. Tonight, we are going to share with you an update on the budget process. We've had an opportunity to meet with the budget board finance committee for over about 8.5 to 9 hours between Tuesday and Saturday, so an extensive amount of time. What Anthony has for you this evening is a 1-page snapshot of the revised budget. Through the work, we're now down to 2.97 budget. It looks like a spreadsheet like this.
Oh,
And on that sheet is a walkthrough on the lower half that describes how we got down from 2.97 from our original budget proposal. And he's going to walk you through and explain what those reductions were. There's also updates to your budget book that he's going to explain what those actions are. And then we're going to hand it over to Mike, who's going to give a summary of what the work that the committee did, and then open to any questions or comments from the board. But before we do, I do want to address one of the comments that we just heard was that we're proposing reduction in paraprofessionals. That was not and is not part of the budget proposal. That was part of the package presented to the Board of Education. I'm not too sure where the information came from, but that was not part of the proposal at all to the board.
Okay, so on this page, the original proposal that the superintendent had given the Board of Education at its first recommendation came to a 3.02% increase over the current fiscal year, representing just under $1 million increase from last year. The Board of Education's subcommittee for finance went through each of the cost centers over, like Rob said, about 8-9 hours the last week or so, with information that they had asked us to provide for them to see where we can, make sure that we have the appropriate staffing numbers and the appropriate amount of funds for oil increase or whatnot. So many of the cost centers didn't change at all: athletics, central office. But curriculum, we ended up reducing by about $12,000. There was a request for 3 cases of kits to use for our EL program. Talking with Rachel, whose school had the 3 kits, she said the teachers are certainly welcome to use those. So we're able to, save that. We have these kits in district, and the EL teacher is absolutely welcome to use them.
And
They're quite
EL
fast.
is English language learners.
Sorry about that. So that's a reduction there. For district-wide, we're under the state's healthcare plan. And we were originally informed there would be an increase of X number of dollars. But after we had provided with this budget, and to the consternation of business managers across the state who were on the plan, comptroller said it was going to be an 8% increase. So we had to go back and revise those numbers. So we had to bring our healthcare and dental up to 8%. And then oil is a major issue for us because we don't have a locked-in rate. And therefore, with the unpredictability of where we're going to be over the next year, we had originally scheduled about 8% increase. One of my friends on the board said, "Oh, are you crazy?" And so we did numbers up to 60%, and none of these numbers are accurate. We have no idea really what the oil will be. So we did put in it at 20%, and so that's going to increase the district-wide line item by about $130,000. Looking at the facilities line, we were able to reduce that by $65,000. That was not related to any upkeep of the buildings. That's not janitorial supplies. It's not the contracts to make sure the buildings are running. But we're able to find offsets. Our friends over at the town hall are going to pick up some of the work on the fields at the high school, and we're able to reduce it by $65,000. The middle school, we had originally proposed, there's a proposal from the middle school that Rob had recommended to the board, making some changes and bringing in a program for the library, and there was the only associated cost with that was a $6,000 fee to use a curriculum to create a similar to a capstone project for the middle school. We took that money out because we're just not sure where that's going to go, whether we end up going with the proposal for the middle school and making a change or not. That won't affect our FTEs, the total number of teachers that we have in the building. But we decided we'll probably hold off on that program for a year, so we took that money out. Looking at Great Oak Elementary School, there was a question about when we have different monitors for recess and whatnot, should we take one out of there? There's 3 monitors at the middle at the Quaker Farms, there's 5 at the elementary school, so we've moved that for $7,000. And then lastly, for the PPS, which is our special education, There's a proposal to increase the number of special education teachers in the district by 1. And that would be at the middle school for our structured literacy programs, for specialized type of instruction for students who have dyslexia. And by bringing that teacher in, we could reduce some of the services that we currently pay outside sources to do. So that we're able to reduce by 55,000. So overall, the number comes into at 2.97%, which is an increase of $900,515. That's the proposal that the subcommittee has worked on. That's not the final number. That allows you to now take a look at that and decide what you think is good, bad, and different. So that's the update. And as far as your books go, we give you a series of pages where I just reflects all those changes, and you can switch the pages out from the first one.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for all your work too. Did you have anything to say, Robert, or did you
No.
just, oh, Mike's going to. Thank you, Mike.
All right. I hope everyone can hear me. I'll try to project. I just introduced myself. My name is Mike Kusa. I have 3 children in town. 2 have gone through the middle school, one's at the high school, and I have a daughter who's in the kindergarten program with actually 21 students. I've been on the board for 3 years. It's the 3rd year doing the finance budget. It doesn't get easier. Every year we do it, we look for efficiencies. It's not an exaggeration that we spent 8 hours in person, but we spent a lot more time than that. A lot of questions, a lot of data gathering, the amount of transparency, and just when asked for information, we're given clear and concise information that's actionable. We put a lot of asks on the principals and any of the administrators in town to provide schedules, to provide resource information that they may have at their fingertips, but at the board level, we typically don't get down to that operational level. We wanted to know not just, last year it was X and this year it's 3% more. We wanted to know where the costs were coming from. We asked deep dive questions for every single line item. It's never easy when we have to come up with numbers that make sense, that we can present to the Board of Finance with the intention of not having major cuts. It'd be very easy to stack the budget and have a 10 or 20% increase. We sure could spend the money. We value the kids, and when we look for cuts, our first priority is for the kids. We try to take care of everyone in the town, and we know that every position matters and every resource matters, but our first priority is for the kids and providing the most resources to help the most. And that's where we came from. Everyone who was on the subcommittee have kids in the system or had kids in the system, and we do care. There are, just to highlight, we have some fixed costs that are increasing. We have contracts, we have unions. There are some expenses that we have to just account for, and we can't control them because we've negotiated, and these are the increases. For the teachers, I know that the 5th grade class is a very hot topic. It is for us too. We look at it, and we had to apply enrollment numbers. It was not just to cut for the sake of cutting. We looked at the enrollment, and we looked at what the board policy for class sizes that are acceptable. We looked at districts in the area, and at this time, based on the projected enrollments, that's the economic decision we made based on the information we have. Just like last year or going into this year, we increased the kindergarten class size because the numbers exceeded what the Board of Ed has as an acceptable range that we can have for our students. And if that number changes, we would definitely evaluate it. And it's not that we're firing for cause or going after any particular teacher or grade level. This teacher will be displaced, and with hopefully that with retirements, there will not be an elimination of a person, but there might be a transition where we put the resources where they're most needed. Looking at the paras, as Dr. Miller had pointed out, our budget has no proposed elimination of a para resource throughout the district. for our subs, yes, the line item for subs has gone down. And it's looking at our utilization. There are just not that many subs available. It's not that the need for subs has gone away. It's that we can't find them. So it's difficult for us to put budget line items towards something that we cannot find enough subs to hit. So we lowered the line item so we can put it more towards kids in what we can control. We had a very long conversation about department chairs. And we've looked at the information. We looked at the initial proposal, the counter proposals, and we took that into consideration and we made recommendations on what we think is best for the high school and for these students. We did deep dives into grants. We wanted to know where our money was coming from the operational budget versus grants. Some grants are repeatable every year, and some grants are very temporary. And we wanted to make sure that we were not investing in resources that we couldn't support as a town if those grants were eliminated. And so if we could shift around where it's one-time expenses, we did. And that's to protect all of our resources and staff members. We looked at staff schedules and we deep dove on class sizes through all the levels, you know, pre-K all the way up through the high school. We wanted to look at, for example, the class offerings and the class sizes and protect things like AP courses. Even if there are a low number of students, it's what's best for the kids. And that's where we put our emphasis. For inventory management, Anthony has put forward a very aggressive process of changing how we manage inventory and to look for efficiencies. And it's, you know, some of these investments, they're not for the short term. We're looking at long term, and we're looking at how we can best service the town and manage our resources the most efficient. In doing this budget, we look at risk tolerance and how comfortable we are if things don't go our way. And we try to be fair and reasonable without, for example, we'll use oil. It could go up to 60–80% increase, but we have to take the risk in that area. We take the risk when it comes to special education and how many outplaced students we might have. And we have to look at that and we have to plan accordingly so we can, again, put the kids first. One highlight that we did that we're looking at is our SRBI resources at the high school when we provide for math and ELA. And looking at, you know, with the opportunity of maybe shifting resources to have a math coach and a reading interventionist provide those services to give the most to our kids who need the help to get back on track. Again, you know, when we all work together, it's the intention to build a budget that we can be proud of, that's fiscally responsible, that puts kids first. And the next step is it goes to the Board of Finance. So after the board receives it, we question it, ask some questions, get information, but when we approve it, it goes to the Board of Finance, and that's where it gets packed. It typically gets packed. And that's where it's gonna hurt. We're not trying to eliminate staff, we're not trying to go after resources for the staff. We do the best we can with what we have. But understand this, the energy you have should continue from the Board of Ed. Keep coming. We appreciate it. We want the enthusiasm. You care and we care. Make sure it carries over when the Board of Finance meets and looks at the budgets. And when it's time to vote on them, you know, please approve the budget. We work very hard and we want to provide the most we can for the kids. So that's my update.
Thanks, John. So we have another audience of citizens, if anybody's thought of something further they'd like to say once hearing the reports from Dr. Miller, Mr. Hibbert, or Mike.
I do. Wheeler. I have many hats in this town as well. I do want to thank all you guys and everyone in some capacity, and I appreciate all you do, and I do see growth that the board has made, and I thank you guys for what I've seen in the last 10 years. I've been a member of the community for the past 10 years, owning a house, teaching 11 years here. I also am a union rep, so I wear that hat as well, and I see things from their perspective. I also am going to be wearing a new hat next year, which will be a parent of 2 kindergarten students. So I have a special interest in looking at where the future's going. I see this 4th to 5th grade cut. You know, I don't look at it as 5th grade. The teacher, I don't mind going up to, they're having 22 students. I have that already. I'm looking at it as we're in a pandemic, and all we've heard about for the last however long is about our mental health, about kids' mental health, about the kids' well-being. And you just mentioned, and I don't disagree that you have the kids' best interest in mind. But give me an example of how cutting this position is with the kids' best interest. These kids are now going to have their class increase, my class will increase, the children will increase. And then it makes me wonder about my own children starting. At what point does the class size say, what stops us from cutting more positions? What stops us from increasing more class sizes? And then this isn't the vision that I had when I came to this town. This isn't what I saw. I came here thinking that Oxford was better in the education realm in other areas. To me, it's a step back. And again, I know you don't have an easy job trying to come up with the money, but I do ask that you try to find different places to find it. We have just finally now established a switching team where we have teachers that are teaching to subjects that are where they feel most expert at. We added a great 5th grade teacher this year in ELA. Nancy is an amazing ELA teacher, and we have data that supports that this team is working. I said before, just to add to Nancy, please, I encourage everyone to ask Mr. Hendershot, to ask our coaches to see our iReady data. And I think if you see the chart, I have it here. I can't. I have it here, which you can see 5th grade's numbers across the district. And there's a reason, because what we're doing is working right now. So why are we going to take that model? And I see it being diminished model, it's just getting rid of something that we're seeing great success with right now. For me, that's why it feels like such a step backwards. You mentioned that you had class sizes and you looked at board policy. When was the board policy written? Was it written before or after the pandemic? You're not talking about the same thing. This is the youngest 5th grade maturity-wise that I've had, including my time in conservative. We're facing challenges that I couldn't have told you about 3 years ago. We're facing issues with kids socially that I couldn't have predicted or told you about 3 years ago. So I ask that when you're looking at those things, you're saying you are considering them all, think about the fact of the situation we're dealing with now. We talk so much about mental health. We talk so much about social emotional learning. Increasing class size is the exact opposite of that. As a union rep, I'm seeing teachers being ping-ponged. And I see conversations now where Oxford was a town you were lucky to get a job, and it was a job you never dreamed of leaving. I think we have something like 21 teachers leave since last year. Why is that happening? In addition to ping pong, we're putting people where they aren't possibly at their best, which is a direct impact to the kids. If I'm learning a new curriculum, if I'm learning a new grade level every year, I'm going to 5th grade, 3rd grade. At what level do we add children back? Is it 25 per class? Is it 26 per class? Now, what teacher goes back to that position? Are we hiring someone new that's going there because the other teacher's already moved? It just, to me, feels like a step backwards. And all that you guys have been doing, it just feels like we're going in a different way. I am more than happy and willing to help you guys in any way that we can, to talk, to get data, to talk to the Board of Finance, whatever else I can do. As mentioned, I wear many hats, and all of them want to see the children in this environment, in a better learning environment than they were in last year or yesterday. And I just feel like that cut is a major step backwards. And again, I hope you would reconsider. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Tracy and I
Tracy.
My name's Tracy. I work at GODS.
Goes.
I have a daughter in school, but I'm having flashbacks. We lived in North Carolina and we were in Guilford County School District. And their classes were at least 4 kids over ratio, like when my daughter was in second, third grade. And it was scary, like they were out of control, like there's just so many kids in a small classroom. And just, I don't know, there was just so many kids and the teacher, a lot of them didn't have control at that point, just there were so many. So I guess just if we're, talking about increasing sizes, we just need to know where that might, go. Because I think it was after DC, it was the worst paying state in the country, which is why I guess the classes are under ratio, but we don't want to go there. It wasn't pleasant.
Thank you. Tracy, can I go back? Anyone else like to address the board? Okay, thank you. Next, we have the report of Superintendent, Dr. Robert Miller.
The bulk of the work that we've been working on has been the budget. I'm not going to go into more extensive detail. There's been a lot of dialogue this evening. I will say that our districts in the region did take a look at class size, and we are right in the mix. Anywhere from some districts had 18 and 19, and one district in District A, Richfield, had classes of 25. The majority of the districts fell between. The majority of the districts in the area fell from class size of 22 to 23. One Richfield, the District A district, had as high as 25 students. So the class size ratio for 5th grade is right in the mix from the data that we looked at. Outside of budget, I have a parent and teacher advisor. Sorry. If you want, sir. Better? Can you hear me?
Richfield is not an accurate comparison. No.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No.
Again, I would just, while we're waiting to get that fixed, I hope you can hear Dr. Miller now, but I just have to ask you kindly, please refrain from calling out from the audience. It's not appropriate in this format. We've given you 2 audience of citizens to speak, so I just ask you to please try to control that. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Yes, okay. We take all matters of enrollment seriously. We have an annual enrollment study that is done and provided to the district. Using that data, we analyze what the class size ratio would be for each projected grade of the following year. Looking at the data of the current 5th grade and what the projection would be for next year, we decided to recommend to the Board of Education an elimination of 1 5th grade teacher. The class size ratio would go up just slightly over 1 student per class. As I just spoke a minute ago, the districts in our surrounding area looked at class sizes in pre-K through 5th grade. In 5th grade in our area ranged from anywhere from 18 up to 25 students. Majority of the district were 22 to 25, one district as high as 25. So in 5th grade, we're not that far out of range of what the other schools in our area are. And some of those are District A districts in Fairfield County. So we're not that far out of range. I do believe that class size matters, but I don't believe that the research indicates from a 22 to 19 or 22 to 18 has that big of a significant difference. If one from 30 to 20 or 25 to 15 or 25 to 10, yes, it has a significant difference. We made a recommendation based on the data that we had and the enrollment projections and what we believe made the most fiscal sense. In terms of stakeholder feedback on the budget, as we proceed through the process, I intend to have, after the board votes on the budget on the 22nd, opportunities to share with the school faculty, opportunities to discuss with parents. I'll have either live in person or Facebook presentations and Q&A with parents so that the parents and staff have a better understanding of the budget and answer their questions as we go through the month of March. but we needed to go through this process first and have a budget first approved by the Board of Education before beginning that communication around the budget itself. If anyone wants to see what the budget book looks like, it is actually on the website on the district homepage. I began back in the fall a set of parent and teacher and student advisory committees. I have a parent and teacher one scheduled for the next couple weeks, and I'm working on scheduling the student advisory committees for the middle school and high school, working on dates with those schools for that. My last piece of update is that I was contacted from Parks and Rec to talk about the use of the fields when they take over the fields, who would maintain scheduling of the field at high school and finances for who would actually collect rental income when the fields are maintained. And we began that discussion with the facilities committee. Also, we talked about policy and eventually as well as building facility committee. So there'll be some recommendations and some collaboration with Parks and Rec to determine exactly who and what will maintain and have ownership and where the funds will go for that. That's my report for this evening.
Great, thank you. Next, we have board correspondence and communication.
We've had several emails regarding masking to the board. And that's the only communication that we've had.
Generally, when I receive, not generally, when I receive a communication, I am the one to respond. Even if you send the communication to every person on the board, then I'm the one who responds to it. So, just so that you understand that you're not getting ignored by the other people. That's just how we're working. So thank you for your correspondence. Subcommittee reports.
Before we get to that,
Oh,
for
sure.
just a second, outside of Dorothy needs to stay for the course update, the other administrators who are here are welcome to leave. I don't think that the budget questions are over with for them. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No problem.
No, just to piggyback on Dr. Miller about the fees and about turning over the maintenance and so forth at the high school. So it will be collaboratively on one bid for the town, so we should get some savings town-wide for that. And again, it's just a matter of hammering out fee structure, percentage, and who's going to start doing that. So I encourage everybody also, there was a capital improvement plan submitted last month. It's probably also on the website at some point. Please take a look at that because I think that addresses also a lot of questions that might be for us, what capital expenditures are coming up. So I encourage you to take a look at that, okay?
And those also get approved by the Board of Finance as well.
Yes.
Yes,
Moving
they have to
forward,
go
The
for it.
town board.
The Board of Finance for the town. Right?
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Deb Rickingham?
Yep, we have two new course proposals. The first one is ECE drawing. It's a fine arts program, Foundations of Art 1, and any additional level under fine arts, all in your packet. So this is our read of this curriculum went through this. We spoke with Mrs. Potter and we feel this is a program that we would like to move forward. So if anybody has any questions,
This is our second read.
we only do one.
Oh, we only do one.
Anybody have any questions? We don't have to do a motion on this, right?
I don't think so.
Rob, do we have to do a motion?
It doesn't hurt to do so.
Okay.
I think it's official.
So I'll make a motion to approve the ECE drawing course at Oxford High School.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
And the second new course is a social media marketing course. It's for the Applied Technologies Department. Anybody has any questions? No? Motion to approve the social media marketing course at OHS.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Then the curriculum we brought to the board subcommittee, and then we'll work on that as well. That was it.
Thank you. Nicole, policy and quality?
Thanks, Steph. So the committee met on February 3rd, and we had a chance to review the bylaw that pertains to the curriculum, technology, and communications committee. Right now, the bylaw that we have is pretty sparse. Before the meeting, I handed out to you this handout. If you look, the current bylaw is what's in the yellow highlight. So it's the first paragraph and the last paragraph. The paragraphs in between have been newly added. And my understanding is that this language came from the curriculum committee.
It did.
All right. So when we had a chance to review it, there were just 3 minor changes. And I penciled in what the changes are so that everyone can take a look at it. And I welcome any questions or discussion.
So for the policy that ELL, what was it? ELL?
Yellow.
It's part of special ed, so it shouldn't be taken out of that line. So it should just be left to say special education services. So,
Yeah, 'cause I agree, because we don't list out all of our other programs. So I think it's all under the umbrella of special education. And just curious,
Just as a matter of record, special education is, ELL services are not part of special education.
Really?
and maybe it does need to be.
So then maybe we need
Which
it.
is why we discussed having it separate.
So it's a totally separate entity.
Correct.
So
It falls-
that
it does not fall under special education. It's all actually supervised by the director of instruction.
By who?
The Director of curriculum instruction.
Okay,
Yeah.
that must be something different than what we've done before.
Yeah, I always thought it was under special ed. Okay.
Mhm.
And so then so then then that's fine.
Yep.
And then my other question is courses. So in other words, you're just differentiating the course offerings, or you're being more specific in,
And Shelley felt there needed, I'm speaking on behalf, and she's through the elder, that there needed to be some specificity that this actually also covered the approval of courses themselves. And that academic programs is general and courses really dove in and was that specific.
I didn't hear what you said, the
She was looking for the specificity of the word courses in there, so that it was definitely covered.
Resources with new course presentation. Okay,
First read, so,
I think so. We didn't do first reads.
for policy we do. Bylaws we do.
Gotcha. I can't keep track.
Bylaws we have to do actually longer periods, I think it's between.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have to make any motion on this.
No.
Any other discussion on this wording or the bylaw? Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Nicole, for your work. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, that's it. That covers it for now.
You're the best. And finance, Mike, I think you probably.
I can
have
give
done
30
your
seconds.
thing. Sure.
Board, if you have correspondent questions, follow-ups, please get it to me or anyone on the subcommittee over the next week or so we can get you the information you might need. So we'd be prepared for voting at our next Board of Ed meeting.
And are there any liaison reports? PTA, SOP, Vic?
Yeah, I'll give you an update. We're working on the strategic operating plan. Okay, it's a 3-year program that we go through every year, every review. We're looking at this differently. That's been brought up by the audience, that the next 3 years are completely different than any of the years that we've ever had. So we're looking at each individual section. I'm going to be speaking kind of for myself, but I think it's also for the committee, is that we're looking at, sections of school. It's kindergarten, and these may not be the right categories, but maybe kindergarten, preschool up to 2nd grade is like one section. Up to 5th to 6th grade is like another section. 7th and 8th is like a real moment of truth. That's a transition point for the kids. And so we're looking at that. And then high school. So there are many, many terms thrown out, but how do we teach the kids to be ready for each of those next sections? So that's what the plan is how do we feed that in? How do we look at that? And then how do we control it and monitor it? That's the big thing. Is how do we monitor what's happening? The biggest thing that I see is that the kids are coming in, going up. They've missed 2 years, possibly 3 years of any kind of interaction. How do we feed that into the classroom through a section? You know, it used to be recreation. You could go out and play in the playground. Okay, we're not even sure how that's going to work. How do we integrate that into the class that they get to have some of those skills of being together and talking? The biggest thing that I read is that communications is number one, all the way through the whole school system. Being able to speak, sell your story, and write your story. So that's the web or the line that we're trying to put into the 3-year marketing plan or plan. So basically, we have a meeting coming up this week. We've scheduled another meeting. They hammer all this together. And March 22nd, I believe, is when we're going to have the deadline. So I hear you and the committee hears you of what you're talking about. The children, the students have missed a lot of the interaction that makes them social, SEL qualified. And we have that in mind to be done and looked at. So that's where we are.
Thank you for being on that committee, Vic. It's important. Thank you. PTO?
PTO doing their Valentine fundraiser, and the meeting, I believe, is
Next Thursday.
17th,
Next Thursday night.
next Thursday.
The Booster
And-
Club meets tomorrow night.
I'm sorry?
The Booster Club meets tomorrow night.
Okay, and Oasis meets on Thursday night, so I'll have an update at the next meeting.
And actually Oasis contacted me today about the freshman panel that they're looking to do.
Oh, okay.
Beginning of March, and they're looking to determine whether it should be mandatory for all ninth grade students or optional, and the format that they're doing that. They have some guest speakers. It looks pretty good, powerful event for students and parents.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, they're a great organization.
Shall we have a-
No. Okay, at this time in our agenda, we are going into executive session. So I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the superintendent's mid-year evaluation, inviting Superintendent Dr. Miller.
Second.
And that is happening at 7:54. So are we going to stay here or go?
We can go into the other room if you like.
Okay, so we need to go into executive session. You're welcome to stay till we come out or see you later. I'm just wondering, maybe once, if people leave, if Shelley can hear us, that's fine. We can stay here.
I
Is the hour?
I have to set one up in there. It'll just take 2 or 3 minutes to do so.
What
It
do you
might be
guys-
better, it might be easier for her to hear in there because we're more close together.
Go in the other room?
I think so. Yeah.
And we also have to